Hey everybody, I think we're live and hopefully you can hear me and see me. I'll just wait for this to get started on the phone so that I can make sure I am recording. I hope you're having a great weekend and you've had a good week and looking forward to Christmas. You know, the trees are starting to come out and people's decorations, which is nice in some respects, but for me, it's too early. It needs to be at least December. So what are we going to talk about today? It's cognitive bias and filter bubbles and the farty dog. So I'll dive in a second, just make sure that this is actually recording, and then I'll make a start. What I'm going to talk about is just a really high level view of cognitive bias and filter bubbles. I'm diving so deep into this topic because it's really amazing. And yeah, there's so much to learn and I really want to do it justice. So hence, I want to dive really deep into it and produce some more training. So yeah, it's live. I'll jump in. Cognitive bias and filter bubbles. What are filter bubbles? So these are the micro ecosystems that we live in unconsciously. It's all about our subconscious. And based on the digital life that we create for ourselves with our gadgets, with our laptops, our PCs, our phones, our Alexas, all of these kind of things, this is where filter bubbles come from. And there's a great video on YouTube by a guy called Eli Parisa from 10 years ago, can you believe? And it talks about all of the social media channels and how they harvest the data such that we create our own ecosystems. We create our own little worlds and filter bubbles, hence the title. You know, every time we do a search in Google, or visit pages on the internet, or give a command to Alexa. These are the kind of things that create our own little microcosm, our own little world, which, you know, doesn't have to be a bad connotation, doesn't have to be a bad thing. But if we think about all of the information that's recorded on us, then potentially it could be used for bad. But the social media channels do tell us that they are using it for positive purposes, whether we believe that or not. We just need to be mindful of how our minds, how our decision making can be influenced by filter bubbles. So that's all I want to say on filter bubbles, and it segues nicely into the cognitive bias theory. And what are cognitive biases? These are subconscious errors in our thinking. What does that mean? Well, you know, we misinterpret things, the information that's going to make us form decisions and judgments. We misinterpret that information that's programmed in us, and it leads to bad decisions. Sometimes these biases are unconscious and automatic from the learning that we've had over the years. And heuristics are the mental shortcuts that our brain makes when we form decisions and we form opinions and make decisions. So sometimes we don't even realize that this is happening because we make a snap judgment, or something comes out subconsciously that we just think afterwards, actually, I should have thought about that a bit more, or that wasn't correct. I really got that wrong and messed up. But yeah, explicit biases can be good. These allow us to make better decisions. For example, you know, the food that we eat and the people that we hang out with. These can all be cognitive biases that are positive and have a positive influence on our lives. You know, we receive around 11 million bits of data per second, but we can only process around 40 of those bits per second. So as you can see from all of the senses that we have, we're overloaded every second of every day, and it sometimes confuses us, which is why we have this computer that programs our minds to sometimes jump to conclusions. And you know, the first studies came out in the 70s by somebody called Tversky and Kahneman. I hope I'm doing that justice. But yeah, this describes flawed thinking and patterns of our behavior. So this is at least 30, 40, 50 years old now, and they've mutated over the years based on people's lifestyles and based on the internet revolution, etc. So I'm going to give you many examples I'm going to give you a few examples today. There are many examples which actually I'm going to put into a free ebook that you can have and also pass around to wherever you see fit as well. So what I'd like to do is show you that you can recognize these biases and these cognitive biases when they happen in ourselves, and if we reference it with regards to marketing, in our prospects, in our audience. And this is the important part of cognitive bias and marketing. Is it's so important to recognize them in ourselves when our thinking isn't always straightforward, but also put ourselves in the shoes of the prospect or the lead, and then we can capitalize from a marketing perspective on the outcomes that we're seeking. 2 years ago, I bought a new car. It wasn't brand new. It was 3 years old at the time, but it was my dream car. I've got a picture of it still up on my vision board, and it's something that I really wanted. So what I did was I started looking on the internet for that car and found the exact one that I wanted after 2, 3, 4 months, maybe 6 months of searching. And guess what happened? As soon as I decided and made a decision that I wanted that specific car, they were everywhere. And I don't know if they were there. They clearly probably were there before I'd made the decision to buy this car, but my subconscious didn't focus on it because it wasn't on my radar. Maybe something sparked my subconscious that made me want to buy it, but then as soon as I'd made the decision to buy it, they were everywhere. And I'm sure you've experienced this yourself as well. So if we can understand our own biases, we can understand better the prospects and clients' biases as well, which will really help us. I'm now going to jump into a document with my notes and talk around the examples that I want to use. So in our business, the cognitive biases work twofold: from our own viewpoints, whether they're correct or flawed, and then from the audience, from the customer, from the prospect, and from the lead. Again, they could be correct cognitive biases that they're thinking, or they could be incorrect as well. The idea is to match them and make them fit together so that they are both positive biases, and then the magic happens. So a few examples of these biases and how we can address them as a matter of urgency in our marketing as well. There's one called the halo effect, which is all about, we persuade ourselves that people that we know, like, and trust will not do us wrong. They will be totally honest, ethical, and the right kind of actions for our best interests. These people are really nice people that won't do us wrong. That's a cognitive bias. It could be true. It may be false as well. Sometimes we get bitten by this cognitive bias, don't we? And unfortunately, we can favor the halo effect is the fact that we favor these people that we have a positive impression of. So if we have come across somebody in the online space, we don't particularly resonate with them and connect with them, then we're not going to have that halo effect with them. Whereas when we resonate and connect with someone, and on whatever level that be, and they really spark something with us, that's the halo effect. And this is where our customers may also think that we walk on water. The halo that we have around our heads because of what we put out in front of them makes them obviously connect with us. That's the halo effect. We deliver on our promises to that client, to that prospect. And so, being honest, being ethical business people, and considering everything that's going on, we'll connect in a deeper level with our prospects if we do the right thing by them. So that's the halo effect. There are hidden impacts as well that we need to consider. So for example, if you've got a traditional brick and mortars business, our customers might also be interested in our global footprint, our carbon footprint, and these are the kind of biases that we might need to address as part of the halo effect. It's a little bit different in the online space, but again, we have to think outside of the box of the biases that our clients or our audience may think about when they see our business. The next one I want to talk about is called the compromise effect. So, for example, if I put 3 washing machines in front of you, we can have a low priced one, a medium, middle of the road priced one, or a really expensive one. And so the compromise effect means that we'll look at these and we'll say, okay, the lowest price one, it's great, but it looks cheap, it looks tacky. And there's very few functions and functionality with that. It doesn't do a lot. So, a turn dial for the program, no digital display, all of that kind of stuff. The mid-price one, let's say that the low price one is £200, $200, whatever, €200. The middle price one, let's say, is £500, $500. It's a little bit better, a lot more functionality. It's got programming options. You can set it to come on at 6 a.m. in the morning so that by the time that you're ready to unload it, 7:30, 8 a.m., you can unload it and take all of the stuff out. And then it's got digital display that tells you everything. Now, so bust in the bank with the expensive model, the Gucci version is £1,000 or $1,500 or euros or whatever that be. This is the Gucci version. It does absolutely everything. It'll even uh, hang the clothes out for you. And, just so that there aren't any that do that, by the way. So I'm just exaggerating a little bit there. But majority of people will go for the middle of the road purchase, won't they? Because this is a compromise effect. This is a bias that's in their minds that makes them think, actually, the cheap is way too cheap and the expensive is a bit too expensive and it does stuff that I don't even need. So in our businesses, we have to come across that we are giving a fair price. We're giving great value to our clients and to our prospects rather than being the cheapest. The race to the bottom is a really lonely race, and you can never be cheap. You can never be cheaper than everybody else. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to maintain and sustain a viable business prospect. So that's the compromise effect. The next one I wanted to talk about is the curse of knowledge bias. Our brains, our minds, they're full of learning, they're full of programming, and some of it's helpful, other parts of it are not really helpful at all. I'm just going to have a drink of water as well. So just a second. So the bias here is that we've got previous information and we're presented with new information, and it might concur or it might not concur, and that's going to affect our judgment. That's going to affect how we think about things if we've got prior knowledge. This is the curse of the knowledge. And with our products, sometimes we can actually bamboozle our prospects and bamboozle our audience with the technobabble of everything that it does, the functionality and all of those things, where all they care about is how it's going to affect them and how it's going to make their life better. How are they going to benefit from what it is that we're putting in front of them? So the curse of our knowledge is just being sick over them with all of the functionality and the details of what the project is, what the program is, what the product can do, all of those things. We need to just strip it all back and think, okay, what are the benefits of what we have? How can we communicate that to our prospects in a way that's really simplistic? How can they understand, speak the language around benefits and outcomes for them? Work out what their pain points are, their challenges, and what you can do about it. And put yourself in their shoes to be able to completely understand what's happening in their world and fill their lack of knowledge position with stuff that's useful for them to make a decision on the purchase. So that is the curse of knowledge bias. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is the risk compensation bias. What does this one mean? Well, I cycle on the road on my bicycle, on a road bike. It gets quite hairy. It gets quite difficult to maneuver. There's potholes I have to veer around, and sometimes cars don't always give me enough space. That's really risky and dangerous sometimes. Whenever we have something in life, there's a risk normally with what we're doing, and a risk to the outcome. So for me on the bike, it's dangerous, but I'm still going to do it. Now, the compensation is that I get healthy, I get fit, and actually, touch wood, no accidents to date. In marketing, we can offer 100% money back guarantee, can't we? To then compensate the person's thinking around, well, I'm a bit worried about this, and especially if it's a high ticket or high priced program or service, then the risk is higher for them. If it's a really cheap product or it's inexpensive, there's low risk for them, but they put very little value on that then, don't they? And they don't believe that it's high quality. And on the contrary, if it's really expensive, they won't make an initial immediate decision. If it's like 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 pounds, they may need to discuss with the spouse or make a decision at a later date. But we need to compensate that thinking and help them understand why they need our product and compensate their thinking. So reduce the risk for them so that when they come across us, if you can handle those objectives in advance, then you reduce the risk for them. That's the risk compensation bias. The final one I wanted to talk about today is the current momentum bias. So living in the moment, it can be a blessing and a curse. We talk a lot about mindfulness, and we talk about living in the present time, which is easier said than done sometimes because we have so many distractions. Remember I said about those 11 million bits per second that are coming in? They're the distractions. So to be able to focus is really challenging. The current momentum bias also plays into this as well. We make irrational decisions based on FOMO or YOLO, the fear of missing out, you only live once, those kind of things. And marketers prey on this. Sometimes it's a good thing that marketers prey and play on this because we need to make a decision. Sometimes delaying, you miss out on things. Other times, delaying on things, deliberating on things means you get a better understanding before you then take the decision. So the current momentum bias is all about kind of the fear-induced marketing so that you make a decision quickly. Impulsive people sometimes take more risks. And that can be a dangerous thing, based on emotions and emotional decision making. Now, if you've been around marketing a while, then we have to use emotions rather than just the logic, like I talked about previously, with bamboozling our audience with just the technobabble and techno speak of the product. We need to evoke the emotions in those people of how we can make their life easier. So reducing the effort, reducing the amount of time that they have to put into something is a benefit of what we can do for them. So that is one of the reasons that this one's really important. So impulsive people might make a snap decision, and that could be based on an emotional decision rather than logic. But it's a higher risk strategy sometimes. Taking away any present moment sacrifices is going to help with our marketing, and we steer the prospect to making the purchase of what we have. For example, if we advise people it's going to reduce their workload by 20% if they follow this proven system, the immediate sacrifice of not having time. So if they say one of their objections before they even listen to us is that they don't have time to get involved with anything more than they have on their plate already, then we can address that right out from the outset, right up front, so that they can't make that as an excuse, because we're going to reduce their workload by 20%. That's one of the benefits we've already promised, and we need to deliver on that promise then. So we can reduce their busyness, and that's one of the benefits. When we require the prospect to perform a micro commitment of doing something, then we need to take away all excuses and evoke those emotions like I've just said. And it needs to be something as simple as living in the current moment and making that decision to sign up or to make a purchase is going to be beneficial to them. And if we don't get those micro commitments, then they're going to leave the cart, they're going to move away and not make a purchase. So requiring those micro commitments will really move our marketing forward. And that's the current momentum bias. I can't even say it. The current momentum bias pushes them towards making a decision. They're the 5 that I wanted to talk about today. And so where am I next? Yes, I am almost wrapping up. The Farty Dog Story. What was I going to talk about with that? So I was listening to an Audible book by Dan Kennedy recently called the No BS to Social Media Marketing. And in there, my ears pricked up when he started to talk about a farty cat story. And I just immediately thought, why am I not using this farty dog, my own farty dog, in my stories? Because we're told that stories are the difference between good marketers and average marketers. And I have so many stories that I just forget about all of the time, as I'm sure you do. So with cognitive biases, what we have to think about is wrapping up stories with those biases, be them positive or negative biases, so that we can have the desired outcome for our audience. The Farty Dog Story, I got so many different ways I can tell this story, but basically I'm sat here in my office recording this video, and it's a bit stinky because my dog's outside in the hallway sitting there farting. And so I have a window in front of me that I have to open frequently, and it gets cold in here because of the stinky farty dog. And while I'm trying to work, it's really distracting. And these are the kind of stories that I need to weave into so I can resonate and connect with my audience more, because I'm sure that lots of my audience have dogs or animals that stink as well, be that farty dog, farty cat, or farty partner or kids. So that's one of the things I wanted to just talk about, the Farty Dog Story. You know, as I've said, I'm going to wrap up now, but I'm going to put this into an ebook, and you're more than welcome to have the ebook for free. And then you can also pass it on to whoever you think needs to know about cognitive biases in marketing. It'll be a lot more detailed. I've only just given you 5 examples in this quick video, but there's going to be a lot more in there. And actually, I'm going to put this training into my HEAT program also. And I wanted to quickly mention the HEAT program. It stands for High End Affiliate Toolkit, and that is not high cost. High end in this instance doesn't mean the investment price, it means the high end of the quality and the content. And as you can see, cognitive bias and filter bubbles is one of the topics that I think is super important for any marketer or anyone in business, to be honest, who has to resonate with their audience better. So I'll put it into the HEAT program. HEAT actually opens up on Friday. It's Black Friday, all the way through till Cyber Monday, depending on the interest levels. So I'd love to have you in there and take a look at just how deep I go into the marketing arena. There are 9 stages. I've chunked them up into 3 phases. I can't make this any simpler. And the way that I'm putting it out there to people is the fact that it definitely will reduce your workload by 20-30%. You know, less of the cold outreach, become the hunted rather than being the hunter. And so these are the things I've stripped it back to bare bones. There is no more that you need to know apart from this HEAT program. And I'd love to have you come and take a look at it. Again, you know, cognitive biases in mind, full 100% money back guarantee, full transparency on exactly what you get. If you wanted more information, then just signal somehow to me that you want more information, and I'll get that to you. I can forward you a video and some more information on it. But it's simplifying marketing to the bare bones. There is nothing better out there, in my humble opinion, at this moment in time. So removing vanity metrics from all of your social media, making the likes pay, making the hearts pay, rather than worrying about having 100, 200, 300 likes and comments. I don't care anymore. Mine are down to 30, 50, 100 now. And the success has changed. And I'm having a lot more success from my social media marketing because of the HEAT program and what I've implemented. So increasing your impact in just 1 week. And that's the promise I'll make from the HEAT program. I'll sign off there. Hope you've enjoyed cognitive biases. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, if you want the ebook, let me know and I'll forward that to you at the same time. Checking out, and I really hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you all very soon.